All right, a lot of this unit is based on a certain set of vocabulary, and it's really important in this unit that you know what you're saying when you're saying it. All right. Now we talked about mutations. That was in a different video, and so the idea is that mutations can lead to different forms of a gene, because if you have changes in the base, then you can have slight changes in the protein that's produced from it. All right. These variations of a gene, different versions of a gene, are called alleles. So an allele is simply a variation of a gene. And by variation, I literally mean that the protein is going to have different amino acids in it. It's going to be slightly different. All right. Now, for every gene in your body, okay, vast majority of them, unless they're on the sex chromosomes, you have two alleles. You have two copies, one from your mother, one from your father, because you got 23 chromosomes from your mother and 23 chromosomes from your father. And 22 of those are actually what we call homologous chromosomes, right? So the idea is that you have two copies of every gene. You have two alleles. All right. So let's say, for example, let's do the blue eyes and brown eyes. Okay. In our perfect world, we only have blue eyes and brown eyes. Don't worry about green or hazel or whatever other colors there are. All right. And so brown eyes are dominant. Okay. And so we show that with a capital B. That means that, well, I'll get into it in a second. Okay. So the capital B stands for brown eyes, and a lowercase b stands for blue eyes. Okay, so these are alleles, the individual letter, single letter, that's an allele. Now, I said that you have two alleles. Every person has two alleles. All right, so there are three possible combinations that people could have. They could have two big B's, right? They could have one big, one little, or they could have two little. These, when you look at what alleles do people have together, these are called genotypes. Okay, so alleles are the individual letters. Genotypes are the two letters together, the two copies that you have. Now, we have terms for these. All right. So if you look at somebody's genotype and they have two of the same alleles, then this is called homozygous. Homo meaning the same, right? So this is homozygous and this is homozygous. They have two different alleles. This is called heterozygous. Hetero means different. All right, so this is a homozygous genotype, both of these, because they have the same, and this is heterozygous. Now, if you have one big B and one little b, what color will your eyes actually be? They will be brown. Okay, so this genotype means that you will have brown eyes. This genotype means you will also have brown eyes. And this one means you will have blue eyes. These, the actual color of your eyes, the actual physical portrayal of these genotypes, these are called phenotypes. These are the phenotypes, all right? So phenotypes are the physical characteristic that is actually shown, right? The genotypes you have lead to your phenotypes, right? So if you have two small b's, that's your genotype, then you will have blue eyes. Now, I said if you have one of each, you end up with brown eyes. Why? Because brown is actually dominant over blue, which is known as recessive. Okay, so when we talk about alleles, we often talk about having dominant alleles and we have recessive, and typically the capital letter is considered is portrayed as the dominant, and this lowercase one is the recessive. All right. So when I said that these were homozygous, that's true. But if you have two of the dominant, then that's homozygous dominant, and this is homozygous recessive. All right. Heterozygous is just heterozygous. There's no second part of that. And so here, yes, you have the dominant and recessive alleles, right? And then the genotypes are heterozygous or homozygous, dominant, recessive. And then the phenotypes are what does that actually mean? What do you actually look like from these genotypes, all right? So that's all really important vocabulary that you need to have, and you need to make sure that you understand the difference, all right? So the phenotype, in a way you could say, is the physical appearance of an organism or a trait right? A specific trait of that organism, eye color, whether your earlobes are attached, things like that. And it's due to, in this case, the genotype, right? But you can also have and an environment. So for example, if you think about, okay, so I'm super, super pale, all right? This is partly determined by my genotype, all right? I do not have genes that allow me to produce a lot of melanin, which is what darkens skin, okay? But, and so my genotype predisposes me to having very light skin. But my phenotype is not just, it's not just not determined by my, not just the genotype, sorry. It's not just the alleles I have. It's also the environment, the fact that I do not go outside much. I do not suntan, all right? I do not lie out in the sun means that I am paler than somebody who might have my exact same alleles, right? Have the exact same genotype as me. But if they go out in the sun a lot, they're going to have darker skin. So that's a phenotype, right? How dark your skin is, that's a phenotype. And this is why I said it's due to the genotype and the environment. All right, what the perhaps the behavior of the organism or the environment that it is within. So this is all really critical vocabulary that you will need in order to understand a lot of the other parts of this section.